Okay.
I tell you what, can we have a better person running maintenance and facility?
No, you can't.
Yes.
I'd like to call our meeting to order, Monday, February the 2nd, 2015. There'll be no meeting at 6:30 in the third room, boardroom. At this time, we'll have Ms. Council do the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Left out more meat.
I'm not waiting for you. I'm not waiting for you.
We didn't see what we were talking about.
Okay, at this time, we'll have a moment of silence, and let's remember our return of our students back to class and for the second semester, and we just hope that they have a safe time. We are praying for our faculty and staff up here, as well as our parents and students and their safety. Let's have a moment of silence. Dear Lord, we thank you for this day. We thank you for that we can come together and meet as a unified group. We are meeting to improve the instruction of our students, and we thank you, dear Lord, and pray that there will be students and faculty and staff will be safe, they will be productive, and that they will be in your hands. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
At this time, is there a motion to approve or adjustments to the agenda?
So move.
Benji made the motion. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Ms. Mildred seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion passed. We've got spotlight on teaching and learning. Brock?
Good evening. Hope you're all doing well this evening. We got three things for you tonight, highlighting some of the folks in our district and some of the wonderful things they've been doing for us. First, I'm going to ask D.H. Conley Principal Don Marr and D.H. Conley Jr. Ben Bullock, to come up. Ben recently served as a United States Senate page, and we've been trying to verify this, but we've been told and working to verify that he might be the first from Pitt County Schools to serve as a Senate page. I'm going to have Mr. Marr talk a little bit about Benjamin and some of the things he's involved with at the school, and then Ben is going to share with you some of his experiences in serving as a page.
Good evening, everyone. Again, Don Marr, I appreciate you having us here tonight at this wonderful body. I'd like to say a little bit about Benjamin Bullock. This fine young man is going to be recognized for his work as a page, a Senate page, for our United States government in Washington, D.C. So when he first came to me and said he was going to be a page, I assumed he was talking about being a page at the state assembly. And found out a little bit later that it's a little bit bigger than that. He's going to be working in the Senate, and he did so this first semester and represented D.H. Conley at Pitt County Schools very well, I might add. We're glad to get him back because now we've got another wrestler on the team, and I think, Ben, you just picked up third place in this tournament you just had this weekend. So I think he was upset because of some other results earlier, but he came through in a big way this weekend and got third place. But just a little bit about him, and I know his mother could probably do a whole lot better, and I'm glad she's here tonight with his brother. But just a little bit about him. Great student, a member of several clubs, including the Bible Club, and very much involved in the school, junior at our school. Fine young man from a fine family. Of course, I said he's a wrestler. He does participate in sports. Fine student. And I would like, if he could, Ben, if you could do that, come up here and tell us just a little bit about what you did as a page for our United States government. So, Ben.
Good evening, everybody. Okay. My duties as a page consisted of setting up the Senate in the morning or whenever they convene, which range from 9:30 in the morning to 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So we set up the Senate floor. We set up the senators so they could talk, and we also got them water so then their throats wouldn't be dry as they're giving speeches. We also ran bills and amendments across the Capitol, so everybody got their legislative material. We were a fundamental part of the Senate. Without pages, I'm not sure how the Senate would function exactly. It isn't exactly like the House of Representatives. Yes, and that was pretty much work as it is. Of course, it was a little bit more complicated than just running bills and amendments, except that's the simplest way I can put it. Okay. Thank you.
Well, thank y'all so much, and I think speaking for Mom and Ben, we are so proud of him, and I know y'all are as well. Just a few other things that he's done I left out. He's a member of the National Senior Beta Club, Bible Club, Chess Club, Health Sciences Academy, Honors Orchestra, HOSA, Writing Club, and as you can probably guess, he's in the Boy Scouts as well. His brother's here tonight representing, but he is actually getting ready to do an Eagle Scout project on our school campus, so we're excited about getting some new benches there in the front. So we just want to thank you, Ben, for all that you've done and the way you've represented Pitt County Schools. Mr. Forbes, I'll turn it over to you.
Mr. Chairman, may I ask one question before you make the presentation? I would be very interested, Ben. What are some of your future ambitions and plans?
You want to come up?
Okay. Well, as of right now, I'm trying to look into getting into colleges. So I'm seeking a nomination to West Point right now. If West Point doesn't work, I'm looking into Hampton-Sydney. I also received letters from the University of Penn and maybe considering Wake Forest and other colleges. But right now I'm looking for college.
All right, appreciate that. And the Pitt County Board of Education proudly recognizes you, Ben, for creating excellence in the East and probably bringing some stability to the Senate.
And could I say something, Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I've known Ben for quite a while, too, and just really proud of him being an outstanding young student in our community. And I've known him through Boy Scouts as well. And we're so proud of it. And congratulations, Mom. I know you are super proud. Yes.
Okay, next I'd like to ask Farmville Middle Principal Randy St. Clair and his head custodian, Mr. Cedric Blow, to come up. Some of you may be familiar with the inspection process that our facility services department goes through with our various schools, and they hand out a Clean School Award. Last year, I think Lake Forest was the top school in terms of earning that Clean School Award, and now they're having 2 rounds of inspections, one in the fall, one in the spring. For the fall semester, the inspections were held soon after the school year started, and Farmville Middle, under the leadership of Mr. Blow here, earned, tied for first place for the Clean School Award for that. And with Aiden Middle, and the folks from Aiden Middle were unable to make it this evening. The inspections are a comprehensive look at the cleanliness of the building. They look at 5 areas: common areas, classrooms, dining rooms, restrooms, and the custodial storage areas, graded as either pass or fail. From what I understand, both schools, Farmville Middle and Aiden Middle, received a perfect score, and I'm going to ask Mr. St. Clair to talk a little bit about Mr. Blow and what he means to Farmville Middle School.
Thank you, Brock. Good evening, Dr. Linker and board members. It's it's hard to put into words exactly what Cedric Bowe means to Farmville Middle School. I've only been at Farmville for 2 years now, but I can tell you now that he's an integral part of everything that we do in our building. He, along with the other custodians here, but I'm going to highlight him because he won't do it for himself. He's quite humble, but he takes the cleanliness of our building so seriously because he understands that if the building is not in tip-top condition, that our students don't take learning seriously. And so he makes it a point each and every day that he enters our building to make sure that the walls are clean, the baseboards are clean, the hallways are clean, the classrooms are clean. This young man goes above and beyond the call of duty each and every day that he enters our building. He will never say so. He won't, because he's just that kind of guy. He's humble. He considers it just to be his job to sit there and clean the building. But no one does it quite like Mr. Blow. Again, I'll brag on him because he won't do it himself. But he just has this thing about making sure that when a young man or young woman comes into our building, that they see they get a sense of pride about themselves. Like he wants it. Anytime he sees any particle of dust anywhere, he's gonna say, "St. Clair, talk to these teachers about this, that, and the other." But you know what? It's just him knowing that if the classrooms are clean, then the kids they want to be there. It's not just about instructional practices. It's about the feeling you get when you walk inside the building. And so when our kids walk inside our building and they see that they can see their reflections in the floor, they stand there looking at themselves for a little bit. But they like being there. So I'm just proud of this young man. I'm proud of the fact that I can truly say that he's a part of our team. I know that Dr. Cato will try and take the credit for hiring him. However, I'm going to go ahead and take the credit for making sure he got to that next level. But honestly, Cedric Blow is tremendous. Not only does he do things for making sure our building is clean, but he's a great member of our Farmville community. He actually coaches 3 rec league basketball teams. Not to mention, he does some things with baseball as well. He's just vested into our community, and so I'm very thankful, very honored to work with him. We have a great partnership, and he just, it's not just about cleanliness with Mr. Blow. It's about making sure our kids feel a sense of pride. And so I'm just honored that he's being recognized because, again, he's a man of little words, but you know what kind of leader he is by the way that he conducts himself in and out of the building.
One thing that I could add, Mr. Blow was also just named the Pitt County Schools Custodian of the Year for our class.
And Mr. Blow, we appreciate, the school board appreciate what you do and for creating excellence in the East and helping our schools and our students. So, appreciate it. See your picture. You can smile.
Okay, our last one this evening, which I think you're going to also really appreciate the work of these 2 gentlemen. I'm going to ask South Central Assistant Principal Mr. Greg McDade to come down and talk a little bit about a situation recently near his school and how some of his staff members chipped in to help out.
You think I have these guys up here by me. Good evening, everyone. Dr. Linker, Chairman Forbes. My name is Greg McDade. I work at South Central High School. Last year, we work across the street from a housing development, and last year we had the misfortune of a young lady getting struck by a car trying to come across to school one day. And fortunately, she was not injured very seriously, but this year we implemented a program along with Ms. Carey's help, where these 2 gentlemen go out every day, drive a little golf cart out there, and they are crossing guards. Basically, for lack of a better term, and get the kids across from Manchester over to the school as safe as possible. Well, about 3 or 4 weeks ago, I'm in my office getting ready for the day, and I get a radio call, and it's very calm. Mr. McDade, there's just been an accident out here. And so I look out my window, and I see that there has been an accident. I can't tell the magnitude of it, When I get out there, it is a terrible, terrible wreck. Somebody pulled out in front of a car coming down Four Lines Road and T-boned them. And we had injuries that at the time we didn't know how severe they were. Of course, traffic is backing up. If you've ever been by the school in the morning, it's quite a lot of traffic, cross traffic coming. And these two gentlemen were very calm, assisted the people in both cars, directed traffic as best they could. This is well before I could get out there, my SROs could get out there. It's quite a cold morning too, if I remember. Very cold morning. And someone didn't go out there with a coat on, if I remember correctly. And just the sense of calm they brought when the EMS got there, how they handled the whole situation, probably saved further accidents because people were coming up on it quickly, people were late to Creekside, trying to get into South Central. And they just did a masterful job of being above and beyond the call of duty. Mr. Richardson works as a teacher assistant at my school, and Mr. Little works as the grounds custodian. And so this is something they take on in addition to those duties, and just did a magnificent job taking care of a situation that could have been a lot worse. And I'll never forget seeing Mr. Richardson leaning into the car where the two students were and just comforting them, making sure they were okay, and they stayed calm. And the paramedics, like I never told you guys this, paramedics later tell about how important that is, that if someone's on scene to keep people from going into shock, because you don't know how badly injured anybody was. Fortunately, both the girls, the worst they had was a concussion, which is nothing to display or discount, but they made full recoveries from what we can tell. The young lady driving along with her child were fine as well, from the best I could. I don't have access to that knowledge, but they got there every day. They're in the middle of that traffic, taking that risk every day to get our kids safe. And when something did come up, they were very calm. And it just makes me reassured every day that I know that these guys are going to be out there helping our kids in more ways than just that. So I want to make sure they got some recognition for that.
Mr. Little and Mr. Richardson, we appreciate you creating excellence in the East and going beyond the call of duty to help our staff and help our students, and we really appreciate it. Little. Thank you. Appreciate it. At this time, we've got public expression. First, we got, I think it's Mike Tarrant. Tarrant. If you would come up to the podium.
I have my partner in crime, Jared Sani.
You have 3 minutes.
Okay. I'm the Director of Sales for Suddenlink Business Services. Jared is our Senior Vice President. And we are here to protest the selection of the wide area network that has been awarded to Broadplex. And we wanted to kind of touch on some of those thoughts as we talk about that. The posted amount for the monthly recurring revenue for the Broadplex network was less than 1% difference between what we had bid and what they had bid. We also talk about how can we support this. I mean, when you're that close in monthly recurring charges, you have to ask what are the other differentiators between the two organizations. Suddenlink has 250 tax-paying employees here in Pitt County. We have over 350 employees within the Eastern Carolina region, and we've got over 6,000 nationwide. We have the workforce to be able to support anytime there's a break, a fix, anything that's needed to fix and support this network. Financial viability is another factor when you're looking at organizations. And Suddenlink is a $2.5 billion company. It's the 7th largest cable operator in the country. We have the financial strength to support this network, to maintain it, to upgrade it as time goes on. We've invested over $1 billion in the last few years and over $500,000 last year alone with our GigaSpeed upgrades. So we do have the financial backing, which was expressed to us to be a very important piece of this equation. We have a network operating center that's 24/7, 365 days a week, or 365 days a year. We have local in-market field engineers. We have local in-market field techs. They are taxpayers, they are employees, they live here, their kids go to school here. I'm not sure that the company that was selected can speak to that. I also wanted to talk about a few other points of consideration, and I'm going to let Jared address those items.
Well, we understand that, in the selection of a major award of business like this, you can't always necessarily take a broader view, and you have to kind of look at, you're the stewards of the budget, which is limited, and as many folks might, and we understand that. And so we understand that cost is a major factor, but, the fact that we're about to send those dollars outside the county when they could stay in the county and support a lot of families who send kids to Pitt County Public Schools, we feel is something y'all should be aware of and consider before this is ratified or approved. Another reason to consider that is the awarding of this wide area network would position Suddenlink to expand our broadband network to underserved rural parts of the county that we can't currently serve today because of it's just cost prohibitive. And
those communities, not to interrupt, but it's Blackjack, Chicad, Farmville, and Stokes are areas that
Some
we can
major
now
areas.
provide broadband services to that don't have them today.
So we just wanted y'all to be aware of those other considerations before this is moved on. Thank you.
Thank you
Appreciate
for your
it.
time. It's a fast clock.
Don Cavallini? You representing yourself or Carr?
Right.
Are you representing yourself or Carr?
I'm here for Carr.
That'd be 5 minutes.
Thank you. I don't think I'll need that.
All right.
Good evening. I want to commend the board. And I'm referring to agenda item on the consent agenda, which is number 8, Part D, which relates to the second reading of the revised policy 7.208, classified personnel, suspension and dismissal. I'm commending the board for the second reading. I'm hoping the board will agree to this change because it's long overdue. And we've been, I'd say, in good spirit, agitating for this change for a long time. Basically, what it does is to, and I'm saying this mainly for people who may not be familiar, it brings to the classified employees, those who are not teachers, the same rights to be heard, whether they, in front of the board personnel committee, as well as the full board when they have a grievance and they've been written up. And it's only fair, and it was long overdue, and I really appreciate, in addition, the fact that our superintendent, Dr. Lanker, afforded us an audience last year with regard to this. And I want to say this in the spirit that was given to the people who got commended for their fine work with the school system, is that the board has brought this to where I think there can be equity and fairness. I think I also want to mention that people who haven't read the editorial in today's paper, Daily Reflector, where it said big fat F, it was really a Associated Press item that was reprinted in the Greensboro News and Record. The reason I want to reference it because you may be in the point of saying to our county commission, or for that matter, our state legislature, that things really need to change so Pitt County School Board and all the fine dedicated workers there can do their jobs and have the most impact. This article indicates that the state should evaluate schools, but assessment should be based on comprehensive criteria that make allowances for the challenges in each school, because they're different from school to school. It also says schools should be given the tools to earn good grades, because there's this whole grading system, A to F. And contrary, not just Guilford County schools, contrary to the past, they say funds should be provided so that smaller classes and other things needed for struggling schools should be provided. And so I'm here to publicly say that we in the Coalition Against Racism support whatever efforts you have in getting what's necessary to make things happen so that there isn't an F grade and that grades are not based on standardized testing, that they're based on the challenges that are faced on and how much progress is made based on those challenges. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Is there a motion to approve the consent item?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the consent item as stated.
I second
Mark
the motion.
made the motion and Benji seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, new business. We have EPS committee update. Caroline?
Thank you very much. I'd like to call on Ms. Olmsted to give our report. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, board members, Mr. Chair. Let me find my notes. The EPS Board Committee met on January the 28th. We had quite a large agenda, so I'm going to hit the highlights. Ms. Doherty declared a quorum present and called the meeting to order that night. The first speaker was Ron Butler about driver's education. Ms. Doherty had called Ron Butler to give an update based on the request from Walter Gaskins. He gave a brief history on the funding of driver's education, and as of now, it's currently funded under the Highway Fund. Beginning in 15-16 school year, it would no longer be, it's being proposed that it will be no longer funded by the state, and so there was concern expressed at the board meeting. Right now, this year, we are currently charging $40 a student. The state allots Pitt County Schools $430,151, which we use to train 1,801 students at a cost of $274 per student. Now, the new talk is that they will allow us to charge $65, but the rest of that would have to come from funds. Ms. Doherty asked Mr. Butler if he knew of any counties drafting resolutions requesting the state continue driver's ed. Mr. Butler said he is aware of some counties drafting resolutions. Mr. Wichert stated he was in favor of drafting a resolution urging the continuation of funding, and not only to provide a sound education, but from the general population in terms of insurance rates. The second agenda item was a bullying update. Ms. Doherty had asked for a bullying update of our schools. Ms. Shonda Cherry, the Student Services Lead, shared a brief overview of the bullying prevention activities in our schools for 14-15. She shared a handout outlining bullying prevention activities that occurred in our schools during the first part of the school year. Mr. Frazier, the 9-12 director, shared some PowerPoint slides showing bulletin boards and different things in the schools for 9-12 that they're doing to address bullying. Ms. Wainwright, 6-8 director, and Lisa Tate, K-5 director, shared an online resource file that's being developed by the K-8 counselors. During their monthly meetings, they formed a PLC so that they can share these lessons with each other on how they best create the lessons to address bullying. Mr. Letchworth shared that that Pitt County Schools is establishing a hotline for each school that allows students and parents to make those reports while remaining anonymous. Ms. Wright, Director of Exceptional Children's Program, shared that the EC Parent Liaison is creating training modules for parents focusing on recognizing the warning signs that indicate their child may be being bullied. And so then Ms. Doherty ended up asking for a review of our policy regarding bullying to ensure that it reflects the General Assembly's recent legislation dictating some type of communication from the principal to the students, to teachers and parents at the beginning of the school year. She also asked that we continue with this subject at the next EPS board meeting. She would like efforts to address how we're collecting data, how do we know what we're doing is working, and those kind of things. The next item on the agenda was dual language. Beginning in 15-16 school year, we'll have 2 dual language immersion kindergarten classrooms at Belvoir. We have contracted with VIF, which is Visiting International Faculty, to assist with locating and training our teachers. We are planning a trip to see some schools that have emerging magnet programs and global programs in their schools sometime in February. The next agenda item was the Pitt County Early College. Wynn Whittington, the new principal, did a brief presentation that he's going to show to parents and students regarding recruiting 9th graders. These students will be provided with an opportunity to earn a high school diploma and 2 years of college credit or an associate's degree at no cost to the student. The early college will be held in a modular unit on the Pitt County Community College campus. The presentation outlines the goals and how the early college is different than a traditional high school. It will follow the Pitt Community College calendar instead of the PCS calendar. He also outlined and gave a timeline outlining the student application, selection, and orientation process, as well as hiring and training of faculty. Beginning February 10th, Mr. Whittington and Mr. DeCreasy will start parent nights at each of the high schools to inform parents. Then following that, they will begin going during the school day to meet with students in the 8th grade at the middle schools and K-8s. Mr. Jenkins, the next agenda item, was school performance grades. Mr. Jenkins, the testing director, shared a handout that gave scenarios for the different grades that the schools could get as far as the A through F. Right now, it's being based on an 80% school proficiency score and a 20% growth score. The school report cards will go home in Pitt County on February the 9th. They have to wait until after the state board releases that and opens it up to the media on February the 5th. The last item was just an update on the STEM initiative. Ms. Wainwright shared that the STEM labs at Aid Middle, CMEPS, and ACOC are up and running well. The goal is to have STEM labs in all the 6-8 schools at the beginning of 15-16 school year. The K-8 schools will have eSTEAM satellite studios and designated spaces in their schools. We are planning a trip for some of the principals and Ms. Wainwright and some other members to go see Goldsboro School of Engineering and also a K-8 STEM school in Lenore County. We do have plans for inviting the board members out to the STEM labs sometime this semester. And then Ms. Doherty asked if there was any questions about the change in the time of the meeting time from 5 to 4 o'clock. There was no comments, and everybody was okay with the change. She asked if there was any more questions, and she adjourned the meeting. Any questions?
Any questions? Got any questions regarding the meeting? Any, Mark?
I think two takeaway points. One I'll save for later on, which is the A through F state grading of schools. But the other significant one that the general public needs to be made aware of, and I do hope that those are gathered will take this message to the General Assembly. The State Insurance Commissioner has said that if the driver's education program is not continued to be funded, that not just the money that goes into the schools will be a loss, but everyone's automobile insurance rates will dramatically increase because of the individuals that have not had training that are now in the general population that are driving based without this training. And so it's going to be very important that the legislature consider this, because if you look at the magnitude of drivers across North Carolina, depending on what the rate jumps, that could be a tremendous indirect cost passed on to every citizen of the state that drives. And the small costs that we have, not to mention the training that hopefully is helping to save our young people's lives as they're getting behind a car, is absolutely valuable. And I'm very much so in favor of continuing the funding for that program, and I hope they listen and will find a way to provide that.
What about, it was mentioned, a resolution being drawn up regarding the board? I think that we need to look at that as a board to draw up have the committee come up with a resolution and bring it back to the board so that we can say that we as a board support this
I'd be very much so in favor of that, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, we'd asked Mr. Butler to look into.
But I
what those
really
resolutions
think
were.
we need to put that into, somebody needs to put that into a motion.
Oh.
That-
Okay.
Yes.
I'd like to make a statement also.
All right, just if we could get,
Mr. Chair, I move that we draft a resolution regarding supporting continuing the driver's education program, and to be able to set that to our General Assembly members, and I'd like that ready for the next board meeting.
all right. Mark seconded, Sean made the motion. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Have some discussion.
No discussion, I'm sorry.
When we meet with our legislators in, later this month, when is it, the 23rd? I think we need to address them then as well,
Right,
and about this issue.
yes.
And might need to go to Raleigh to talk with not just them, but that committee that deals with that, because the more people that lobby, sometimes it helps. So we have, more to lose if we don't go.
Any other discussion before we vote? Mayor?
Yes, and I attended the EPS committee meeting that day, and one of the points that Mark brought up during that meeting was the fact that sometimes when we do have an opportunity to address issues like this amongst our legislators, you have to remember certain things go based upon privilege, cost, who can afford certain things and who cannot. And this is one of those situations. Whereas if you have money, you'll be able to take this class. If you don't have money, you won't be able to take that class. So therefore, the cost will be spilled out towards everyone when it comes to cost effectiveness for insurance and car insurance. But it also will deny others who will not have an opportunity to take driver's ed. So we have to look at those things when we're considering, writing our legislator or discussing things of that nature also. So I'd just like to throw that part in there too.
All right, we have a motion for a resolution. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion pass. Any other discussion or questions for Sheriff? All right, thank you.
I would like to introduce Lisa Tate. She is our K-5 director, and she's going to introduce the folks for the wellness update.
I move this down so you can hear me, but I'll have to move it back up because Mr. Butler is right there. So you can stay. As one of the responsibilities I have is to coordinate the School Health Advisory Council, which is SHAC. In the fall, if you remember, we had Joe Morgan speak to you about some of the components that SHAC entailed. Joe Morgan is here with us tonight as well. You pull up the PowerPoint up there. I think it needs to be put there. One of the things that we talked about last time is the community resources fund that SHAC deals with. It's a council that's made up of many different components from here, the Pitt County schools, and outside in the community. Tonight, we're going to concentrate on sports safety and give you some really good information about that. So I'm going to turn it over to Ron Butler, who will in turn have Latangi Knight as well speak today.
My name is Ron Butler. I've been in this position 6 years. I do want to give a little background. I wish Cedric had stayed here. My first year coaching in Pitt County, Cedric played football on the team I was the head coach for. And Randy described him as humble. I would not have described him as humble a couple decades ago. But, not to pick on him behind his back, but I will say this. We don't pay our coaches a whole lot of money. But when you see as a coach and you see a former player like Cedric that's been successful and just a great contributor to society, that pride is priceless. And I appreciate Cedric and all he's done, the success he's had, and I always enjoy seeing him. In athletics, you know, I looked at Ben Bullock up here, and of course, I was thinking that young man needs to get involved in something. But I mean, just all the things he did, and that he's a wrestler as well as all the clubs and everything. It's just nice to see a young man, and especially as a wrestler, to stand up and be accountable for things, because a lot of kids don't want to do that this time. And before I begin, I do want to recognize last week we lost an icon in athletics in Pitt County. Dr. Jimmy Grimsley passed away, and the impact that he's had on most of our coaches, whether it's when they were doing student interns at East Carolina, and he continues to be involved. He ran our regional tournament for many years when we hosted here at East Carolina. And Dr. Grimsley will be greatly missed. You know, I miss his support. He's very supportive of all of us. And personally, I'll miss his critique, because he was one that would sit you down and tell you when you weren't doing something right and how to do it. And I will certainly miss that. 6 years ago, when Chairman Forbes, when I took this position, he sat me down, he gave me two main jobs. He had all these rule books, and he said, if it's a rule, you follow it, and you make sure that we compete as safe as we reasonably can in athletics, because we had just had a tragedy. And I took that seriously, and that's kind of been the charge that we've gone on. 18 months ago, I came before the board, and we shared that we were the first schools in North Carolina to get the Safe Sports School Award. 18 months later, we've got 402 member schools, and there's now 12 schools that have received this award. Obviously, 6 of them are here in Pitt County, so I'm very proud of that. We continue to do everything we can with the help and the collaboration with East Carolina, Dr. Sharon Rogers. We do everything we can to compete at the highest level. I did want to share, we just got back a lot of our athletic trainer evaluations, and the biggest critique we're getting is we need more coverage. We've only got one in each school. They can only be one place. I'm going to share some stats, and please, I don't want to overwhelm you with numbers. Carol can forward the PowerPoint, and we can talk about numbers later, but there's going to be way too many to look at. But we've got to make sure, I mean, there's a lot of needs, and there's only one athletic trainer. We do have 5 openings for next year. We've interviewed a few people last week, got a couple interviews this week, and there's a lot of very talented people that are looking to work for us, so that'll be a good thing. In 2 weeks, we're going to unveil a new athletics webpage. It'll connect to ours, I guess, but we're going to do a couple things. And one of the things we're going to experiment with, and I brought it here, is mainly we're going to have headlines and events, but on the top we're going to scroll and put all the high school scores. You can look ahead and get the dates of things, and as long as we can get it from the schools themselves, we're going to update that. But the primary thing I wanted to show, if you look up here at the top, the athletic training. Now, we've got a terrific athletic training website and a lot of information. And this was our first draft when they came out with the page. And the first thing we looked at, I said, no, that's not prominent enough. So athletic training is going to be in red when we come and we unveil this, so that they can click on that. Now, it has every policy we have. It'll have all our forms and insurance and things like that. But it'll also have policies, whether it's lightning, heat, cold. And we open that up, and I share with other school districts around here, and they're all welcome to use those policies. And they say, can I use your policy if I just change our name? I said, I don't care if you change your name. Just use it. So, but that's just to show the amount of the importance that we do put into the safety of our student athletes, is that will be a highlight in our webpage. All right, some numbers. Now, I'll try to go through these quickly. They can be overwhelming. This is a concussion incident. This is just this year from August the 1st to December 31st. So don't let these numbers take away from you. They do show a couple things. We hope the JV football was just an anomaly. Now realize football started August 1 and ended mid-November, pretty much, for most of them. A couple things that stand out. One is cheerleading at 12.5%. Now basically we look at how many concussions we've had, how many are on that roster. But now cheerleading is the full August through December. So cheerleading is a season and a half when we look at that. But we've also got to look at boys soccer, and we look at volleyball. You know, we're having more and more concussions occur in volleyball. We barely get to cover volleyball. You know, state law says that we have to be out there with football. But yet, and so, you know, football, we think they're mostly getting diagnosed. Volleyball, we're not even out there with them. They have to come to the athletic trainer. So there's just some concerns there of, you know, and I'll address that in the future, what we hope to do. this is kind of intimidating. We look at upper extremity injuries, lower extremity injuries, and the math comes out, it's just under 4,000 that's just JV and varsity football this year. Now, please realize we've got 6 teams, sometimes 2, 3, or 4 football teams out there. So essentially, we've got 500 young men practicing for about 100 days. So there's 50,000 practices. So it basically says an athlete has one of those injuries about once every 2 weeks. Then you'll see some of the list of the people that we refer them to and where they go. All right, what do we do to get better? Sports Medicine Advisory Committee, we will meet this spring with this committee that we have put together. We've got pretty much the membership ready. Basically, we want local experts to look at all our data and to advise us in how we can improve. We're also going to collaborate with Divided Injury Management, AHEC. At the request of pediatricians, we're going to host concussion management for these local doctors. And one reason, we do a neurocognitive pre-assessment in certain sports, and a lot of doctors don't want to see them and handle that concussion because they don't know how to read the data when we retest them. So they've requested a training, which we will do, and it's going to supposedly be in March, and there'll be some nationally recognized speakers to do that. And lastly, we don't do this for honors, but we will be honored on February 19th. The partnership will be presented to the ECU Board of Visitors as an example to highlight what a collaboration should be with East Carolina. I'm going to turn it over now to Latangi, and I'm going to try to thank her, but I don't want to steal her thunder with her speech. We started, you can come on up. This is Latangi Knight. We started 3 years ago as a pilot program.
Hold on just a minute before you
Yes, sir.
continue, because we got a question that relates
I have
to.
a question for you.
Yes, sir.
Since you're standing up there, has anyone tried to get the sectionals back to Pitt County after we lost them?
Yes, sir, the regionals, yes, sir. They propose it now. It is staying in Fayetteville.
Yeah, I know that they went to Fayetteville for, I think, $60,000 upfront money.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
Because we couldn't come up, Pitt County couldn't come up with 60,000. How much is the upfront money now? Do you know?
It's just a little bit more than that.
Yeah, I would say it would be. I know the whole deal was down to money. But we need to concentrate in getting that back this way
Walter.
with the athletic department.
What you got to do is, I thought you had a question regarding.
Well, it is a question. But while I
But
got
I'm
it
talking about to
standing
that
up-
subject matter that was up
Okay, well,
there.
you don't count as time.
No.
Well, we would like to get it back. However, what we're also looking at with the High School Athletic Association, they may change how they do the
Right to answer
regionals. Well,
Go ahead.
Interested in that.
okay. So Latangi, we started, the one piece that we felt we were missing is everyone was educated except the student athlete themselves, which is the most important part. So we've teamed up with Latangi. The first group that did a pilot program has entered high school this year. And with that, I'll turn it over and thank Latangi for what she's done.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm Latangi Knight with the Injury Prevention Program at Vidant Medical Center, and I just want to briefly highlight what we have been doing as far as collaborating with Pitt County schools and efforts that we have doing as it relates to athletes and athletics. Our sports safety program began in 2012, and one of our goals of the program was to educate students, educate athletes, parents, coaches, how and what we can do to prevent injuries in the schools. And the funding for this program is provided through Safe Kids Worldwide. We also get some funding also from Pitt County Athletics as well. And our biggest goal is to change the culture of youth sports. And to do that, we want to do prevention. And we are doing that. And we're going to kind of highlight really quickly what we're doing in the schools, in Pitt County schools. One of our strategies to do this is we host sports safety prevention clinics. And we do this with 6th grade students. And again, like I said, it started back in 2012. We did a pilot school at A.G. Cox. And the reason why we chose 6th grade students, because these students have not entered organized sports yet until 7th and 8th grade. So we wanted to design a program where they can get the education on these specific topics that you see here: concussion prevention, hydration, positive play, acute and overuse injury. I put a star there with emergency response. That's another program or prevention area that we want to do as well coming into 2015. So here on the screen, you see 4 different pictures, and this is what we actually do in the schools. In the far, say, right corner, we have someone that comes out from the Brain Injury Association of North Carolina and actually does concussion management and prevention with 6th grade students. And this is an hour session that we do when we come into the schools and the middle schools and work with the 6th grade students. And again, it takes an hour. Students are in the stations for about 10 to 15 minutes or so, and they move station to station. There's another station that we do that talks about hydration, and also you see the board, it says Sugar Shockers. They learn about sports nutrition. We also have a station where we collaborate with athletic trainers. They come in and do different activities related to strengthening and conditioning with the 6th grade students. And then we also have an athlete that comes out and talks with the students from ECU. I want to quickly highlight what we have done in the past few years here with our sports safety prevention program, and I have some stats here. In 2012, as I said, we started and we did a pilot school. We had 300 students, and it was an assembly form. And then in 2013, the program expanded to 10 of our 13 middle schools here in Pitt County, where 1,400 students received the program. And then this past year, all 13 schools, which was a great accomplishment for us, were able to, or 6th grade students rather, were able to be a part of this sports safety prevention program. And the next 2 slides highlight, we do an actual survey evaluation piece with the students. So we wanted to find out what are these students learning? What are their knowledge? What are they retaining from the information when we do this hour session? So we asked the students a series of 5 questions, and the questions are pretty much formed to the different program areas that I showed before. And this was actually the first survey we did in 2013. You see the schools that participated. We actually had 10 schools, but only 8 schools actually completed the survey in its entirety. You look there how the scores based on the school are very, very close, between the 40 to 50% range as far as the scores of the test scores of the surveys, the 5 questions that the students took pre. And then in the blue, it shows posts of how the scores went up as far as them learning the information after we finished the program. So there was about a 25% increase of knowledge. And this was last year's results. We actually reached out to one private school that's up there as well, but we also did, again, our sports safety program, the same concept. Look with the 6th grade students' test scores for the beginning, the green, the pre, and also the post. And you kind of see how the scores went up. They are learning something. They're learning something about sports safety prevention. They're learning these topics that are very important. And what we plan to do is also monitor these students a few years from now and to see what information did they retain from our program. And these are just some pictures that show what we do in the different stations. There's a little balance. They have concussion goggles where they kind of get a chance to see and kind of feel how it is, or how you can visually see when you have a concussion. They also get a chance to kind of do interactive stations where they're learning different information, not just talking to them, but they actually get a chance to move around and learn information. Next, Stephanie King could not be here, but this is another program that Injury Prevention Department does at Vidant Medical Center in the schools that I'm going to quickly highlight. And she, like I said, she couldn't be here today, but I'm going to just briefly go through her presentation. Active Routes to School is 100% funded, and the Active Routes to School program was funded through North Carolina DOT, which administered the funds through the Pitt County Health Department. So it was a collaboration, and with that collaboration, Vidant Medical Center housed the position of the person who goes out into our schools and does this particular program. So as I said before, injury prevention partner, and we are partnering with Region 10, which is made up of 9 counties that you see here, and also, again, with the health department that helped us grow this program and start this program. It was a natural fit because injury prevention was already doing similar activities, and we had already collaborated with Pitt County Health Department to do their CPPW project, which is communities putting prevention to work. So the goal of the Active Routes to School program, again, is to increase walking and biking safely for elementary and middle school students in K through 8th grade. And how we kind of monitored this was we did data collection and travel tallies to monitor how many students were walking to school and biking to school. And this was done actually at Ridgewood. And we also did parent surveys as well. And as far as project activities with Active Routes to School in Pitt County, we assist and coordinated the International Walk to School Day, and we also assist with ongoing programs as far as walking school bus programs and in different contests happening in our Pitt County schools. Here's a picture of International Bike to School Day, and that happened at W.H. Robertson School. And there was a actual bike safety rodeo event. The students had a really, really great time, and we had great partnership with Greenville Police Department, Winterville, and also Winterville Fire and Rescue and Pitt County Sheriff's Department. We also did the International Walk to School Day at Eastern Elementary School. It's a great event. We also had at least 200 students that came out to that program. And these are some of the regional programs that we have done in the counties that we serve. Also, we raise awareness on biking and pedestrian safety in the schools. And Let's Go North Carolina is a program that we have adapted, and actual teachers, they can get, there's a little flash drive in the little shoe there, and there's free education up there that the teachers can use in the classroom to raise awareness about biking and pedestrian safety. And we also have those available at our office where we give those flash drives out to teachers. And almost done. Safe Communities is a program too that has been around for a very long time, and Active Routes to School actually partner with Safe Communities to do helmet fittings and to purchase the helmets for different helmet fittings that happen throughout Pitt County. And we actually did the schools you see listed there in Pitt County, and we gave out bike helmets to 4th grade students this year and in the past 12 years. So. Are there any questions?
Any questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Williams.
Ms. Knight.
Yes.
I noticed that on your helmets and things of that nature, you had like Ridgewood, Creekside, and those are more like your community schools. But you got schools that's like outside, like Belvoir and Pactola, Stokes. Those kind of schools are not on here, and I understand that they're, not walking paths and things like that, but can you do some stuff like during the summer or kind of try to identify some of those students, that may need
that's a good
helmets
point.
and things like that?
This, of course, is not my program. However, my coworker that does this program, the way that they kind of tell people about the program as far as in the schools is through the coaches. So it's a voluntary thing where coaches can decide if there's something that they want us to come in and give away. I mean, we do it for free, of course, giving away to all the 4th grade students helmets. And there are some other programs that I'm sure happen in those schools that just haven't been highlighted on tonight. But it's, again, based on availability, if the coaches or if they want us to actually come out. So I'm just, again, not familiar all the places we go, but I'm sure we have been there in the past 12 years.
Okay, anyone else? Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Benji?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Our Finance Committee met on Thursday, January the 29th at 5 o'clock. We had a quorum present. All of our members, as a matter of fact, Mr. Chairman, were present. Also, Sean took time out of his schedule to be a part of that as well. And at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Michael Cowan to sort of lead us in our discussion of what took place that day.
Good evening. There were 3 items that were discussed at the committee meeting that are being presented for approval here tonight by the full board. The first is the 2013-14 Comprehensive Annual Financial Report, otherwise known as the Audit Report. The audit report, which was submitted to the full board on the week of January 22nd, was performed by Carr, Riggs, and Ingram, LLC. Carr, Riggs, and Ingram issued an unqualified audit opinion on the financial statements of Pitt County Schools, which is the best audit opinion which can be offered. There were no material weaknesses with concerns to the internal controls over financial reporting that were recorded during the audit. And I'm happy to say that Pitt County Schools received 2 very prestigious financial awards as part of the audit. The Government Finance Officers Association for a Certificate of Excellence in Financial Reporting, and the Association of School Business Officials Certificate of Excellence in Financial Reporting as well. This marks the 12th year in a row that the board has received these awards, which reflects the importance that the board places on financial reporting. Included within your board materials, a summary of that audit report. After discussion of the audit report, the committee voted unanimously to recommend approval to the full board.
Hear a motion?
I make the motion.
I second.
Make the motion to approve the audit.
Yes.
Okay, and Caroline seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, next.
The second item discussed was Budget Amendment Number 1 for the 2014-15 school year. Per Budget Amendment Number 1, the budget stands at approximately $232.5 million, which is an increase of approximately $3.1 million from the budget resolution that was approved back in early November. Approximately 57% of the budget is comprised of state funding, with the additional 26.8% comprised of both local and federal. Approximately 73% of the funding is dedicated to instructional programming, while over 83% of the budget is comprised of salaries and benefits for the 3,000-plus employees that the board employs. Included on page 35 of your agenda material is a detail of that increase. This is not a requested increase. This is $3.1 million in additional funding that we will receive from state and federal governments based off of the statutes and that's dedicated to us by law. Again, financially, it's $3.1 million made up primarily of state and federal funds. I'm going to walk through those components of that $3.1 million increase here in the next couple of seconds. First of all, a $1.4 million increase in state transportation. The State Department of Transportation through Department of Public Instruction provides us an initial allotment for our yellow school bus budget. And after the first and second month of the school year, they do an update to what they call a transportation efficiency rating, which is based off the number of school buses in operation and the miles driven. Pitt County Schools has routinely maintained at least a 95% efficiency rating with the state level. So after that period, in December, the state allocates out the second appropriation to us, which is $1.6 million. Also in December, as with any other year, we received another $185,000 in connectivity allowance from the Department of Public Instruction. This is to afford to cover the cost of connecting to the internet for the school system. We received approximately $278,000 in developmental daycare allocations to serve our students with at-risk that are in those developmental daycare centers. Interestingly enough, we received approximately $232,000 increase in what we call charter school appropriations. At the beginning of the school year, the Department of Public Instruction reduces our allocations based off the projected increased enrollment in charter schools for Pitt County students. After the second month of school, they go back and adjust that based off of the actual enrollment. The state overestimated the enrollment in charter schools for Pitt County students, thereby meaning that we've got dollars added back to our appropriations from the Department of Public Instruction. Also received another $125,000 in fines and forfeitures for the from the State Technology Fund that's dedicated to us by law. These are very routine. If you go back and look at budget amendments from the past, you'll see that based off the timing of when these dollars are allotted to us, this is no different from any other given year.
Federal dollars, we saw a $586,000 increase in that appropriation. We have to remember that the federal fiscal year is on an October 1st through September 30th fiscal year, whereas the state fiscal year is July 1st through June 30th. Therefore, when we put together the budget resolution, it's based off of a planning allotment, what we can project to receive from the federal government based off of our number of students with disability and students that are economically disadvantaged. I'm proud to say that our increase was $586,000, which primarily came in the form of dollars dedicated to us to serve students with disabilities, as well as the fact that the EC department, in conjunction with the finance, applied for and received approximately $223,000 worth of additional EC dollars that we're using to fund an additional 10 teacher assistants within the school system, which will help our EC program out dramatically. We also received $135,000 in Race to the Top funds for teachers that had been selected into the governor's teacher network. Basically, at the beginning of this fiscal year during the summer, teachers from around the state had the opportunity to basically apply for election into this institute, which was basically allowed the state to hire these teachers on a part-time basis, on a stipend basis, to write professional development at the state level. We were lucky enough to have between 10 and 12 teachers that were selected to this Governor's Teachers Network, so federal dollars were allocated to us to pay the stipends related to the work that they're doing at the state level. And finally, I'm also proud to say, with concerns to our EC program, we received settlement of a second Medicaid cost report. This is the second cost report that we've had settled within this fiscal year, which added another $300,000 back to the EC program. These are dollars that the EC program, along with working with the finance office, goes out and seeks. This is Medicaid billing for the services we provide to those students. And again, this is dollar for dollar we get back from the Medicaid program, goes directly back into the EC program. So combined, that's 98.5% of the overall increases that we saw within Budget Amendment Number 1 for the 2015-16 school year.
Mr. Chairman, I move approval for the 2014-15 Budget Amendment Number 1.
I'll second it.
Benji made the motion and Mayor second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right.
Now, the third item that was discussed and presented for approval tonight is actually a resolution that's going to help save us some money. And with the fact that we've been talking about a $25 million capital project plan that we have here and working in conjunction with the county commissioners, this is actually, this resolution tonight will free up between $60,000 and $70,000 that can be used to cover future debt service for the $25 million package that we have presented. And this is also included within your board agenda material. Basically, the resolution is authorizing and approving lease agreements between Pitt County Schools and the Pitt County Board of Education for the lease of Hope Middle School and D.H. Conley High School and the financing of debt related to those facilities. The construction of Hope Middle School and an addition in D.H. Conley High School back in 2004 was financed by the County of Pitt through a COPS issue, with the two facilities, D.H. Conley and Hope Middle, being pledged as collateral for that debt. In 2004, the Board of Education entered into a lease agreement with the Board of County Commissioners for the use of those two facilities until the debt was settled. Basically, there's a lien on that property, and title to that property does not revert back to the Board of Education until that debt is settled, which is a good 25 years down the road. That's how long it takes to pay off that school. The County of Pitt is currently refinancing that debt. And the refinancing of that debt will again save the school system basically about between $60,000 and $70,000 a year in financing costs. In order to complete the refinancing of this debt, the Board of Education must pass a resolution authorizing an amendment to the original 2004 lease that releases D.H. Conley property from the lease so that lease only applies to Hope Middle School, and creating a separate lease agreement with the County of Pitt for the D.H. Conley property only. Basically, we lease the property back to both D.H. Conley and Hope Middle School for only $1 per year. A copy of the resolution and the lease agreements can be found on page 50 through 72 of the agenda material. The motion must be made to approve the resolution authorizing the execution and delivery of the lease agreement and the First Amendment to the lease agreements relating to the lease of the certain property from the county.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the resolution authorizing and approving the execution and delivery of a lease agreement and a First Amendment to lease agreement relating to the lease of certain school park property from the county.
Second.
Mark seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Pass.
Thank y'all.
Let's see, next we have Mary and Alila.
Mr. Chairman, Dr. Jackson is here tonight representing the Human Resources Committee. We had a full quorum at the Human Resources Committee. We will be discussing issues from the minutes of that meeting. Dr. Jackson?
Good evening, everyone. We covered several items at the Human Resources Committee meeting that was held on January 27th. The first item was an update or a continued update regarding the teacher turnover summary, and I brought back some specific data to the committee regarding districts around us and our comparisons in teacher turnover rates for those districts, and also looking at the positions that we had lost. And in the analysis, a lot of them were beginning teachers, and some of them were specific areas of math and science. However, several of them were family location and family responsibility. So we had some further discussion regarding that, and also we discussed exit surveys. I did go back and follow up on that. We do email and personally mail exit surveys after each board agenda. So we are looking into different avenues of getting more electronic processes for that, so hopefully we'll have a better turnover rate. So that is where we, better rate of getting information back as far as why people are leaving Pitt County schools. We also talked about our classified salary study. We have conducted that and shared the results with the other counties, which is a great way that requested, great way to get information. And from that particular study, we received 45 responses from counties that are size alike and other counties that are around our area. And there were different suggestions that we will be discussing as a Human Resources Committee. And of course, we'll have to talk with Mr. Cowan's Finance Committee in regards to the ability to be able to bring some of the things that we discovered to the forefront. There were suggestions made and talked about based on what we found in the results. For some of the counties, they pay additional funding for certificates or additional pay for certificates earned. That is something that was discussed, as well as looking at giving additional funds to those that earn degrees past what they have at the present time, such as a bachelor's or any type of degree that is earned, and to give them credit for that even if they're in their current position, such as a teacher assistant or someone that is a custodian or anyone, so that they can get credit for the degrees that they have. So that is where we are as far as looking at, that was just an example, but we're looking at our facility services, looking at transportation, and looking at all the school-based and central office-based positions. So that's where we were with our classified study. And the last thing, we'll go into the next part of what we have on the HR update, which is the introduction of a new policy you will find on page 75 in your book. And it is the injury and loss prevention policy. This policy is being presented to you for first reading. This policy was voted on by the State Board in the January 8th State Board of Education meeting. And because of that, we are required to adopt a policy on workers' comp injury and prevention. We have to report and email this policy to the Insurance Division of the DPI by March 31st of 2015, which is next month, the end of next month. So I'm presenting this policy to you for first reading, and basically, it talks about having a leadership team as far as safety and injury prevention, and our leadership team consists of a workers' comp safety team, a work safety team, and also a school safety team, which are under the directions of Mr. Matt Johnson and Mr. Michael Cowan, with other members around being on there, such as finance members and also school-level administrators, to talk about school safety as well as workplace safety. So we do have a team, and our team is presently working on all components of this policy. Accident investigation and correction of hazards. They're going out and investigating when there is an injury that's paid through workers' comp, and there is a protocol that they are following. Also, we are doing preventive measures. We're telling people Do not stand on chairs when you're trying to put something up. We do know that that is a hazard. And also evaluating areas of concern in buildings that may have a hot spot in a building, that there's been a lot of injuries. We're evaluating those, and also working with our staff at Facility Services and others to fix areas that we know are available to be fixed. Correction of those identified hazards, and also reporting them. We have a system where they're required to report if there's an injury. We have Ms. Cindy Dixon, who goes out to the school and meet with the employees, meet with the principals, investigate the area. So we already have a lot going on that is already in this policy. And our safety training, for those of us that are looking at our safe schools, we have videos about slips, trips, and falls, and also all of the other things. And we must stay updated, because there is a report to let us know who has not taken their safety training. So we try to keep it update as well. And really, we want to teach our employees, including myself, about being responsible, making sure that we're very careful, and making sure that we're safe. So that's just a brief overview of this policy, which is required. The North Carolina School Board Association did provide us a model policy, and we did use the model policy. So that was most of what we discussed that is what we discussed in our Human Resources Committee meeting during open session.
Any questions about that?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Will this policy take the place of any current policy that we have in place?
No, we're working in conjunction with school safety policy, which you'll see is listed as 5.101, because we have not had a workers' comp policy prior to, which is probably the reason why they're coming up with this as a state.
And just one more follow-up, Mr. Chairman. Are we able to do all of the in-servicing and training ourselves, Delilah, within house?
We're doing it with the help and aid of the school, the Safe Schools program that we have, which sends out modules that you're supposed to view. And that is a requirement, because of course, if they're not viewed, and that's all of us, including myself and the superintendent. And we also have follow-up.
That's good.
We also have follow-up when there's an injury,
So
and there's always training.
They've already made those videos and all.
Oh,
They just
yes.
pass them down to us and.
Yes, it is a good investment, because they're very detailed, and you have to take a quiz and pass.
Yeah, OSHA's. Anything else? Mary, do you have anything else to add regarding?
Yes, but I'm gonna
Okay.
let Dr. Linker handle that.
Okay.
part.
Okay, in our, in closed session, we've gone through our attorneys for the in-house counsel, and the next step that we need from the board is some direction on when we might want to interview for those individuals.
ASAP.
I got you. Could we maybe get a date?
You're
Or,
looking at March.
We mentioned we
I
have.
had mentioned we have during our second board meeting of the month, since we now have that time available. So if February would be too soon, maybe during the March
March.
second meeting.
March sounds more appropriate, because you'll be able to come up with
Well, it
questions
would
and
be
so
during
forth.
the first, second, third week.
I don't have the calendar.
March
in front of me.
16th.
That date.
Mary, Mary.
Yes, ma'am.
Dr. Jackson, we did give everybody 6 names tonight.
That is correct.
And of those 6 names, we're all 9 of us, we just want the public to be aware that all 9 of us will be interviewing those 6 candidates. We're gonna come up with that date, which all 9 of us can get together to do the interviews. So hopefully in March.
March 16th is what
We're
you're
looking at
saying?
March 16th.
Okay.
The second meeting date of the month. At
To get it done.
March 16th.
March 16th, at what time?
And where? Location, or we gonna let Carol do that and Dr. Jackson?
We can, the two of us can work
Identify the
together.
I
for
think the
that.
2 of them can come up with that.
We can.
5 o'clock? Can we start at 5 o'clock?
We have an EPS committee meeting at 4 that day, but I think that we can be done
We can
by,
postpone it,
or we can be done in 1 hour.
Okay, that would be good if you would do that, be done in an hour. That would be a.
We have a 30-minute increment.
Yes.
Do it in 30 minutes.
And I would like to update
30 minutes.
that Ms. Rankin and I have,
30
all
minutes.
letters, appropriate letters have been formulated and signed, hopefully tonight, so they can be put in the mail tomorrow to those that are the finalists and those that did not make the finalists. So we'll give proper notification
Yeah.
officially to all of them.
And if we could look at 30-minute increments.
Okay? And your start time again
It's
is?
5 o'clock. And the questions will be generated,
We have a list.
you have,
We have a list.
We have
13.
questions from
And
our
you're gonna come
previous,
through.
We have a list
like
of
the
13.
previous
we had last time.
processes.
Okay, good. That's taken care of. Mr. Gaskins.
Said you're gonna notify the other ones that didn't make it, right?
That is correct.
Why don't we wait until we finalize the lawyer and then do that?
Well, the thing is, what we're gonna do is
We
let
waited
it
this
know.
long.
I know, but what we have done is already selected 6.
But what if something happens
And
that don't turn
then
out?
we're gonna open them back up. We'll open it back up if.
That's
if-
the reason I said don't do it.
Right, but if we don't decide on any of these, we'll just open it back up, and those people can apply again.
And he could say that in the letter.
And the letter's designed to say you've not maybe met the first round of interviews, and if we need to come back and visit, we will. So that's what we have done.
So that leaves it open, leaves the door open.
I just didn't want to shut the door on the other ones until we finalize a lawyer. And then we can say, then we can do the
Shut the door on what?
But the door's open.
The door's not open.
It's
We
open.
got
I
6.
did not want to shut the
I
door on
mean-
anybody yet.
We gotta, it's open,
Well, the door closed.
it's
As far as I'm
open.
concerned, we submitted the selection of the 6 that we're gonna submit.
All right, let's move on. You got anything
I
else to
have
add?
nothing else.
Are you sure?
I am very sure.
All
Thank
right.
you.
We made the selection to interview what we're gonna interview.
The next very important aspect will be Matt and Mr. Walter Gaskin.
I'm gonna turn it over to Matt.
January 26th, I'll try to make this quick. On January 26th,
Are
we
you
met
sure?
up here at 5 o'clock. I'm going to try. As most of you know, we did contract with Synergistics Energy Conservation Company back in September. We had a meeting with them the first part of January just to give us a 90-day update on kind of where they were with the database, how they were coming with building that, how they had been getting out in schools, and kind of what the process were at that point. I asked them to come to the committee meeting that night and give us the presentation to the committee, just to get it out there that these guys are on board. They are out here. They have 2 energy specialists that have been hired. They've had several consultants in. They have gone and met with every principal, every custodian, been in every school, been spending lots of hours daily with the facility services guys, looking at all aspects of it and ways we can save money and all of our opportunities that are out there. They are very excited about continuing this process. They're still shooting for a 20% savings is what they're finding. They are finding some opportunities for us out there with the help of facility services. All of our staff members in the school sites, we do have a good potential to save this. So far it has been received very well at all of our school sites. And so we're looking forward to great things coming out of this and saving some money. In about 3 months, we will have the first 6-month period to kind of bring to the board and give us an estimate on the first 6 months, what our savings was, and a projection through the first of the year on what we think the 1 year will be for our total savings. Again, they're looking at about 20% is what they're shooting for. This will continue on with our contract for 5 years with the potential to keep on going after that. So we do have lots of potential there, and it is out there. The next item we did at our meeting was we talked about the energy conservation procedure. We have gone in and updated that procedure to incorporate everything that Synergistics is bringing to the table as well. The board policy and procedures were pretty well written, but Synergistics just brings a lot of other ideas and ways to save and ways to look at energy consumption and conservation. So we have updated that procedure with the help of Synergistics to make sure we are capturing everything we can and saving the money where we can, when we can with that. So that procedure is updated. It will be posted as an updated procedure. The next item we did talk about was an update for our capital project priority list that we've talked about. Michael talked about it a little bit before, our $26 million list. We have met several times, Dr. Linker, Mr. Cowan, and myself have met several times with the county. Our list has been presented to the county commissioners at their capital outlay workshop. From our meetings with them as well as the workshop, we're feeling pretty good about our list. the ability for the county to support us and move forward with this. So we're looking forward to the next couple months coming up to be able to get this on their budget and get it approved through the county. So we're feeling very confident with all this that they are going to support us, and we're going to move forward with this and get our project list going, get the funding, and then actually start prioritizing these things on what year and how soon we can actually hit these immediate needs we have at the school. So we will keep you updated as we get that going, and we'll keep you updated as far as what projects are starting when and what we're thinking the durations will be and that kind of thing. Other couple things that we talked about that we're working on, we are working with Dr. Linker, Cheryl Olmstead, Bill Frazier, Wynn Winnington, Pitt Community College. I'm working on getting that facility out there for our early college program. Right now, we are in the design phase of the modular unit that'll be out there for 1.5 to 2 years. We've got a pretty good idea of what we want the floor layout to be, so our next steps are going to be to actually start getting some bids out there to these companies, figuring out where we are budget-wise with that program, and getting that on-site in place and ready for the fall semester out at Pitt Community College. So we've done a lot with that, and working with that to get it set up so we're ready to go. So our next meeting, that was pretty much what we did at that meeting. Our next meeting will be February 23rd at 5 right here, if anybody's got any questions.
Just for your information, I did ask how much those guys were charging us, and they're working on halves, which means if they save us $500,000, they get $250,000 out of it. So the more they save us, the more they get. So that's the way, if they don't save us but $1, they don't give us 50 cents. That means they work for nothing. So they've got to work to save us money, because that was one of the main things I want to know, how much it was costing us to implement that program in.
They have a huge incentive to save us as much as they can.
Yeah, so they're working on halves.
All right, appreciate that. Thank you, Matt. Comments by the superintendent?
Just, I'd like to remind the board, on February 23rd at 8 o'clock at Rose High School, we're going to have our legislators in for a breakfast. I know your schedules are busy. Hopefully, you can work that out to be there. We have commitments from all of our legislators. We will be working with Pitt County Education Foundation in conjunction with them, but after the presentations, we also have some tours set up, and the parents from public schools will be helping with our tours and getting these legislators into our schools to see what's going on. So we're excited about that opportunity to talk with them about driver's ed, about the other issues that are affecting public schools. We're also going to talk a little bit about the AF grading. Certainly not against accountability, but I think, and I know Mr. Witcher will talk about this, I'm sure, but if we're going to be measuring schools, we need to be measuring what teachers are doing. And if you look at what teachers are doing, our schools are all improving. The focus needs to be more on growth, not so much simply proficiency. But that'll be another discussion. And again, it's not against accountability, because we all want to be held accountable. We make sure we're just measuring the right stuff. So that's going to be the focus of what we talk about. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right. I don't have any comments. Ms. Council?
Okay, I have a couple. I'd just like to introduce my graduate student. That's ECU intern LaRon Dowdell. Could you just stand and... Okay. And so we are working together. He's in placement at the 3rd Street Center. Also, the Teacher of the Year process is going on, and we will be having the Teacher of the Year luncheon on March 11th, and we invite everybody to attend, all the board members. And on the 6th, there's going to be a legislative ethics conference at the McKinnon Center. And I had the opportunity of attending back in January, the 22nd to the 23rd, the North Carolina Schools Board Association's Public Policy Conference. Carolina and I went to that, and we are planning on getting you all a more detailed report, but for the public, we'd just like to let you know some of the topics that were discussed: school vouchers and parental choice, virtual schools, virtual charter schools, are our students being tested or assessed too much, what the State Board of Education is doing about it, the myth of fact, the controversy around the AP US history, and that really caught my attention because some of our school systems are having open enrollment for that. So Dr. Link, I want you to check that out because we will need more of our kids in AP, and one of the reasons, not just being AP and getting a chance to do the tests and being, it being delayed, I mean, you don't have to pay for that course in college, but it's just such a savings to the student and their family. The more AP tests they pass and they can be transferred to college credits is just awesome. And so I do have some information from some of our other school systems that are very progressive in our state.
Thank you so much. You held it to the time. Perfect. Great. Say, Caroline, now you have a challenge.
I do. I just want to take a moment to highlight some examples of our teachers and our students engaging in very creative learning strategies that occurred this past month. There were 36 students in Kathy Smith and Peggy Swearingen's middle school class at Pactola School who created a living wax museum. They all dressed up as famous historical characters, and they came to life when somebody dropped a coin in their jar and talked about their contributions to society. It sounded like a really neat thing to be doing, something that's probably quite memorable. They'll probably remember their whole lives. Miss Borisoff's Spanish class at Hope Middle School had a tapas day where they sampled traditional Spanish foods as their culminating event. And Aiden Middle School students recently had successful launches of their rockets as a part of STEM lab studies. And a big congratulations to Steve Laster of Pactola School for being named the Regional Principal of the Year. We know he'll represent us well in the North Carolina competition, and good luck. Best wishes to him.
Great. Sean?
I'd like to thank Michael Cowan for all the work that he and his staff do. We just got an excellent audit. And conversely, we hear more and more about charter schools, and I saw an interesting article this week that highlights the lack of oversight financially of charter schools in the state of North Carolina, which I and several other people deem as 100% irresponsible. And so I want to thank Michael for everything that he does. The public's funds are in tremendous hands right there. I want to thank Ron Butler for mentioning Dr. Jimmy Grimsley tonight. Jimmy Grimsley will be missed by this community tremendously. It was a sad day when I found out he passed in his sleep. He was an outstanding individual. I can say that my family would not be in Pitt County if it wasn't for Dr. Jimmy Grimsley recommending us relocating to Pitt County years ago. Jimmy did so much more than athletics. He was a true educator. He was a true friend. He was a true Christian. He never forgot anyone's name. He always showed up when you least expected it. He was one who just always taught about life. Not long ago, he showed up to a game, and I was speaking with him and my wife, and we were talking about how can we work our schedule so maybe we can get in a couple of more of our kids' games. And he stopped and he said, well, you need to do what you can because you need to be at all of your kids' games. He put family first. He will just be missed. He was an outstanding individual. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mark?
First of all, I'd like to say good evening to Mr. Robert Moore. I see he's joined us in the audience tonight, and certainly we miss seeing his wonderful face around the board table with us, and I'm not sure we ever got a chance to say thank you for your service to Pitt County Schools, but thank you, and good to see you again, friend. As Dr. Linker mentioned, and as it will be made a lot to do around the state, A through F report card grades are going to be coming out rating our schools. And particularly east of I-95 in North Carolina, a lot of the schools in this part of the state are going to take it on the chin in terms of their performance. And it's interesting, the total state evaluation instrument and the way the state accountability model is built is to address growth in students. Not every student in North Carolina will be able to be a level 3, 4, or 5 student. That's the beauty of humankind, is that we all come from different walks and we all come from different abilities. And the beauty is the magic that our teachers work with our students every year in terms of taking a low level 1 student and moving them to a higher level 1, or level 1 student and moving them to a level 2. That's what the magic is about in a day's worth of education that our students get. And that's the value that our business and industry in this state rely on, is growing our students into more productive leaders. And so I think for the instrument to evaluate schools on every student being an A-B student and then giving that data to the public is totally misleading. You as parents all across our great state know what kind of students you have and what kind of abilities they come to the table with. Not every student is gifted to come to the table with money in their pockets, or having a warm place to sleep at night, or having the ability to have someone to financially support them. But that's something that we need to take into account and speak loudly to our legislatures in this A through F model, because in the coming days, you're going to see much made about these grades, but remember, there's a huge asterisk in that they're human beings that grade is attached to.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, I want to thank you and the board for allowing me the opportunity to be a host at Chicago School for Senator Bill Cook, who came and visited with us and visited with our teachers and staff out there, particularly as it relates to the iStation models that we have out there and improving and being a resource for reading for our students. That was a tremendous opportunity for him to see what Pitt County Schools was doing. He was tremendously impressed and very positive. Also, I want to thank the community over in D.H. Conley for the outpouring of support that they showed for proctoring for their end of course test. There was, they just had an overflow of support to help that, and I do want to thank that community out there, because they have always shown tremendous support for our schools, and I appreciate them so much. And then while I was there, I got the opportunity to tour some of the CTE program areas at D.H. Conley, and we got some tremendous things happening for young people in hands-on learning and experiential learning, and I'm just very excited about that and the continued opportunities that Dr. Linker, as our superintendent, continues to give our young people. And then finally, I want to thank in particular Ephraim Smith, who provided tremendous resources for one segment of our CTE program area, the Agricultural Education FFA program, to pull together at his place to be able to witness and see for ourselves some of the successes that is happening in that area of CTE. And I want to thank so many of the board members that were here, many of the staff also that was there that night in support of Dr. Linker as well.
Mary?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to thank everybody that came out this evening to the board meeting. I'd like to thank our senior staff, especially our ones that's been working very hard and diligently on us in search of our new school board attorney. I'd like to thank the young man, excuse me, Ben Bullock. What an awesome young man. What a brilliant future and positive future this young man will have. I'm excited for him and his family. Congratulations to Farmville Middle and Aiden Middle for the clean schools. Mr. Blow takes pride. It's not always who you think that will breathe life into your child. So I thank him because he's doing and going above and beyond what is necessary and what we least expect from the person you least expect it from. I would also like to say congratulations to Steve Lassiter, who's the regional principal of the year, who just so happened to be in my district, and I had nothing to do with it. But I'll take all the credit anytime. I also like to thank Mr. Little and Mr. Richardson from South Central for their contributions to our students. They are also ones that speak life into our students when you least expect it. This ABCD grading system, I'd like to let all our parents in our community know that this is not something that the school board is doing. This is something that is coming from the General Assembly. So when you see these letters come out has a grading system about your child, think twice, read twice, be careful about what you read. And when you see something you don't like, ask a question, but don't be hostile about it, because it's not Pitt County School Board. Look at the General Assembly again for the laws in which they act, and they look at our children and grade our children. Thank you.
Walter.
The reason I asked, Mr. Chairman, Ron, the question I asked him, well, he's gone now. I didn't get a chance. But at that time, that program was really good, and a lot of people came into Pitt County. Dr. Lincoln, I'll put it right back on you. I'm not seeing where they stand with that. I know they got to come up with a certain amount of money. It was $60,000, been several years ago, and I know somebody in this county can sponsor that. I'd like to see that program come back. Pitt County brings a lot of people from western part of the state, Raleigh, Durham, all up around to Greenville. So we'd like to see it come back.
Billy?
One question for you, Dr. Linker. Has the contract on that low band, has it been awarded?
I'll follow up on that.
If it ain't, I would like to have some conversation about it.
All right.
Yes, sir.
Do I hear a motion to
I move we adjourn.
Second? Second?
Second.
Benny? Good gracious.
I'm sorry, I was almost asleep.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye.